Welcome to the webinar, Sales Forecasting Made Simple. I'm your host, Jeff Leo Herman, and today is Wednesday, March 28th, 2018. Thank you so much for being here. And today the goal is to kick it off and have a little quick and dirty fun. Now, if your definition of quick and dirty fun is off-roading, that's amazing. Mine is often just running quick Excel models and fiddling around with Excel. So if you like doing the same, then you are certainly in the right place. Just trying to predict your success, predict your future, and doing it in such a way that it's not tedious, but actually enjoyable and impactful. And the reason being, the reason for sales forecasting and why we're having this webinar is, of course, that small changes can lead to a very big impact. And there are lots of small changes you can make in a sales process that will deliver very big results. And while the focus of sales forecasting is often prediction and really trying to predict the future and precisely hit a number with certainty, it's really a quantifiable way to know which levers to pull to really make your numbers, right? So really just scientifically, quantifiably getting to the root of your forecast and predicting success, and through that prediction and your ability to nail your prediction, that just gives everyone in your organization a lot of confidence in your ability to deliver on results. So having that command of the data is amazing. But in addition, and something that's often overlooked, sales forecasting is often something for the analytics nerds out there, those of us that are on this webinar today. Quite frankly, I prefer sales forecasting because it's a better way of objectively coaching the team and coaching yourself. And it's a way in which you can embrace a sales process, set up a rhythm, and get into a reporting, in a reporting phase that sets your team up for success. And that, the notion of sales forecasting, it's, you're constantly updating and constantly watching the model and updating the forecast. Well, that process, rhythm, and reporting to get your forecast leads to tremendous coaching tips and coaching techniques. And they're all very objective coaching techniques, which is very different from a lot of sales coaching, which seems to be subjective or situational. We want to get away from situational consulting. I think, I saw, I observe, and into really objective coaching situations, which is, the average duration of this deal, it's stalled in this stage and it's 28 days old, so says the forecast. How can we help get that deal unstuck? And what can we do? And just providing much more objective levers to pull, focusing on the activity. And if we focus on the activity, the results will follow, instead of subjectively focusing on the results and attitudes and opinions. So with that being said, I once again welcome you to the webinar. Thank you for being here, and want to give you an idea of what to expect today. So we're going to do a brief introduction, jump into why sales forecasting, everyone's favorite. We're going to do a little role playing and some metrics-driven coaching exercises. And then lastly, how to accelerate your sales pipeline and the Q&A session. So get your questions ready. What's good to know is there is a freebie. So for those of you that do stick around to the end of this webinar, there is a freebie that we will be giving away, but of course you have to stick around to the end of the webinar to capture that freebie. So from an introduction standpoint, who is Madison, Michigan to Market? Why are we here today? Well, we believe that content marketing drives sales productivity. So we develop content-centric go-to-market strategies to build trust and credibility, do a lot of sales process design work, but it's all driven through creative, financial, and analytical methods. And we really believe in sales and marketing alignment and the power of content in driving trust and credibility. And we even have a sales analytics blog called Sales Quants, so dedicated to sales, all things sales analytics. So give it a look if you have some time after that. But we're just really passionate about data-driven sales and marketing strategies. So to jump into the topic of the day, let's talk about why. Why are we here? Why is sales forecasting important? As I mentioned already, it's about prediction, it's about objective coaching, but you don't have to actually take my word for it. You can actually take the word here of Insights Squared, which is a really great Boston-based company. They're a sales analytics firm. They are part of the Salesforce ecosystem, and they have a great sales analytics and sales forecasting capability. It's pretty intense. The goal today is quick and dirty, simple forecasting, how to quickly get your results using Excel. And so while Sales Insight Squared is an amazing tool, we don't need it in this case, right? We're just really doing quick and dirty, on the fly forecasting and modeling in Excel. But to take, why sales forecasting is important, it's really about business planning, risk management, and goal setting. That's critical. And it just gives you visibility into the future potential of your business. And most importantly, and this is where I really come down on sales forecasting, is yes, it's an analytical exercise, but it helps you really provide great coaching tips and coaching methods and objective measures of success, and takes the opinions out of the process and really just focus on objective performance measurements. So that's why sales forecasting is important. It's a great tool to use to just know how you're doing and how you're going in your time horizon, and just trying to adjust accordingly. So now that we've covered the why, let's start role playing. So everyone's favorite thing to do in sales, everyone enjoys the role play. Well, we're going to do some metrics-driven coaching role playing today. And I would like you to meet our sales team for today. You can see we have a really awesome looking sales team. They're very happy to be here, very excited. They're motivated. They're focused on profitability and teamwork and collaboration and strategy. And to get specific, let's look at pairings of our sales team, right? So first we're going to take a look at Suzy and Billy. So Suzy and Billy, here they are. Suzy in the center of the picture and Billy immediately to her right. So both Suzy and Billy carry a $150,000 bookings target, or otherwise known as a quota. And Billy has a pipeline of $450,000. Suzy has a pipeline of $375,000. So on the surface, you would think, Billy's in great shape, Suzy's not in bad shape. They both have pipelines larger than their bookings target. So is that good enough? Do you think we're set up for success? On the surface, yes, but the whole purpose of sales forecasting is getting analytical, getting very objective measures of success, and teasing out the drivers of their success. So if you dive down a little deeper, so for this process, looking at who is more effective, Suzy or Billy, who is going to make their quarter, who actually potentially could win if you paired them against each other. So our forecasting period is the quarter. So we're kicking off Q2 as of next week. And so heading into Q2, they both are carrying bookings target of 150K. So you can see Billy has closed $35,000 to date, already set up for Q2, I'm sorry. And Suzy is already set herself up with $5,000 for Q2. So Suzy's closed one deal, Billy has closed 6. Billy's pipeline is large, slightly larger than Suzy's. But if you look at their number of open opportunities they're managing and their win rates, this is where you start to see some differences. So Suzy has a win rate of 25% and Billy's is 15%. So that means Suzy closes 1 out of every 4 deals she has in the pipeline. Billy isn't as productive. So that being said, Billy's in a stronger position. He already has deals closed. He's already booked $35,000 in revenue. He's got a larger pipeline. Their sales cycle is exactly the same at 30 days. So is Billy just going to cruise through Q2 and really crush it and leave Suzy in the dust? Love to know what you think. And since we're here to analytically decide, we don't even have to think about it. Let's just run the model. So I'm going to jump over here to Excel. Excuse this screen jumping here. So you can see Suzy and Billy. Let me open this up a little bit. All right. So here's the forecasting calculator. Here's the section that I showed you above, right? So same information, same data. But this is where we take our series of inputs, things that we know objectively on the surface, and then what outputs do they yield? Well, one important thing you look at often when looking at the forecast out of the gate, coverage metric. Suzy's coverage metric is 2.6, Billy's is 3.9. And basically the coverage metric evaluates sales pipeline to the actual bookings in relation to the target. So it's just essentially, typically you want to have a pipeline 3 to 5 times larger than your bookings target or your quota. So Billy is good. He's got a 4 almost. Suzy is a little shy of the bookings target. You can see as far as just calculations around average closed deal size, average active deal size, and of all the opportunities managed, the average deal size. So you can see this is where Suzy has a slight advantage. But what's interesting is that even though on the surface in the prior slides, Billy looked like he was in a better position of success, and mind you, they're both set up in a strong position for success. But Suzy, because of her 25% win rate, 10 points higher than Billy's 15% win rate, she actually will beat Billy for the quarter. And Suzy will come in at 191% to plan, whereas Billy will come in at 158% to plan. And we should all want this success, right? So it's both amazing. The fact that they're both over-delivering on quota is amazing. But it's interesting to see just, once again, these small changes make a big impact. Just a few points difference in the win rate means a pretty significant difference in the expected delivery, right? So in their expected percent to goal. You can see here, by just changing the model, say Suzy in Q2 does better. So she can go from 286, 250 in expected sales. Say she has a 30%, say she gets more effective. Now she's at the 342 in expected sales, 228% to goal. Or maybe things slow down for her and she's not as productive and effective and her win rate declines down to a 10%. Now she's down to 117 in expected sales, 78% to goal. So you can see by focusing on the win rates, and one could try to understand, and this is once again the objective nature, putting Suzy back on par. She started with a 25% win rate against Billy's 15. Why is her win rate higher? That's a great question to ask. Why is Suzy's win rate higher than Billy's win rate, and why has it made such a dramatic impact on her results? And a lot can be said for Billy, given his pipeline, right? Just might open a lot of what I would call junky opportunities. So he has pipeline inflation. So he's unnecessarily opened opportunities to make his pipeline look big, but he's not nearly as effective. So these are opportunities to coach up Billy to get him to be more effective, either have higher qualification standards on the deals he opens or better methods on winning and positioning. And so those are all specific areas we can get into, which we will when we wrap up at the end. But so what it nets out here, looking at this quick and dirty analysis, right? Suzy with her 25% win rate yields 191% to plan. So even though she looked like she was in, not as great of a position as Billy was in, she still over delivers and does an amazing job and comes in at 191% to plan. So let's continue moving through our team, and let's now look at Seth and Beth. So we are going to move on, and Seth is here on the, your far right of the picture. He's carrying a pipeline of 300K, and Beth is carrying a pipeline of 150, and they both have a bookings target of 100K. So once again, on the surface, you check this out and you think, wow, Seth is his pipeline's 3 times the size of his bookings target. Beth is really has a thin margin, who will win, right? Who's in the best position to win? Well, objectively looking at, does bigger equal better? Seth, once again, with his 100K in bookings target, 25K bookings to date. So he's already closed some deals, and he still has a 300K pipeline. Active opportunities, he has 30 active opportunities, a 20% win rate, and a 30-day sales cycle. Somewhat similar to the last two team members we saw. Beth, on the other hand, now while I don't suggest the situation that Beth is in, her pipeline, she's only won one deal, and her pipeline is just a shade higher than her actual target. I'm a little nervous for Beth, but it looks like she runs a really tight pipeline, right? Because her win rate's 30% and her sales cycle is 20 days. So she has a 10-day faster, 10-day accelerated sales cycle over Seth. Now, will her sales cycle, her quicker sales cycle, and her higher win rate help her achieve the success and beat Seth? Let's check it out. So here we go. Another quick coaching scenario. Let me jump over to their sheet, Seth and Beth. So you can see we did the setup, screenshot from the prior screen. As we said, looking here, coverage metric. I'm very nervous for Beth. 1.6 coverage metric, meaning she doesn't have a lot of margin for error, right? She has to be really effective in delivering her number. Now, what's interesting is even though Seth's pipeline is twice as large, double that of Beth's, and he's already got deals in the hopper, he's going to have an amazing quarter, come in at 205% to goal. Well, Beth is going to come in at 208% to goal. So based upon the math and based upon the fact that just a 10-day difference in sales cycle, closing deals faster, closing deals at a faster rate with a higher win rate, faster duration with a higher win rate, helps her move from this position, this nerve-wracking position to basically winning the quarter, right, at 208%. And while I don't suggest, I guess this is the point where you have to watch Beth here over time. If she's always kind of on that thin line, hammering it, being really effective, running a super tight pipeline, or you want to maybe encourage her to open a few more opportunities, maybe do some more qualification, but with a high degree of certainty, based upon the math, based upon the calculations, she has success. I mean, if you look at, let's just fiddle with the model here, right? Take her sales cycle up to 30 days, right? So she's 10 days less impactful. She falls down to, still beating quota, right? To 140K in expected sales, 140% to plan, which is still amazing once again. And we're just, fiddling with the model, but you can see because she closes deals, the average days outstanding she has for her deals are faster. She's just more effective. What if things really slow down for her and she hit 40 days? Well, she'd barely make goal. And even if you look at 50 days, right, 86%. So once again, these small changes lead to a big impact. So just simply something you don't think about, the days it takes you to close a deal on average and for each deal make a very, very big difference. So just how many days is that deal outstanding? Is that deal open? Just makes a very big difference. And so in this case, Beth's faster sales cycle yields 208% to plan. And, we're going to look at one last part of the model here, which is we're done comparing Seth and Beth and Suzy and Billy. And just, we're going to look at this simple calculator, right? You can see here, I'll blow this up a little more for you. This is simply a way, to do scenario planning or sensitivity analysis, plugging in, hey, what's my target? How many deals do I have done to date? 2 of them, great. What's my pipeline size? To really have a strong sense of your win rate in your sales cycle, gives you so much power. And once again, these are all great objective coaching methods because you can work on things. What are things you can do to have a faster average sales cycle? Is it quicker follow-up between proposal phases or between phone calls? Is it keeping in touch and thinking of you type of emails, kind of the nurturing strategy? These are things we'll get into. But once again, you can look at a 15% win rate. In this case, gets this person A here to 100% to plan. Once again, if things slow down and if they have a bad batch of luck and they have a 25% win rate, or I'm sorry, that's a good batch of luck, they win at a higher rate, they become at 156% to plan. If they start jamming their pipeline full of a bunch of stuff and end up with a 10% win rate, 72% to plan. So the point here is, so often is the case that we just look at top level metrics like pipeline size, and you just think, let's jam more, get more deals in the pipeline, make more calls, get out there, load up more deals. And while that's important to have a high volume of deals, I think a caveat to that is a high quality volume of deals. So really make sure that the deals you are putting in your pipeline are of high quality, they meet your ideal client profile, and there are things you can count on to close in a meaningful way. So this tool here is just a fun way to run these different scenarios and really look at the impact. And look, if you did, say you did jam your pipeline up 500K, right? Your coverage metric goes up to 4. In this case, you could say, oh, my pipeline is 150, right? And my pipeline's 150. I've already closed 2 deals, fortunately, for 25K. How can I make my number if I'm struggling and I can't get a single person to call me back? Well, if I raise my win rate to 30%, I just got a heck of a lot closer to my expected goals. So let's raise it up to, say, 32%, and there I am, 99%, so let's just say 33%. So in this case, right, I just hit my goal. So in this case, there are so many levers to pull, and if you have a pipeline, it's not big, but it's of high quality, and as long as you take the appropriate steps to get the job done, you can end up really in a great position of success. So that concludes our active coaching session, right? Our active role-playing session. And, in review, once again, small changes can make a big impact. These objective measures, these levers you can pull around win rate, sales cycle, pipeline size. Let's just not focus on the surface level stats. It's really dig deeper and talk about sales acceleration tips. Excuse me for a second. So we've already hit some of these through our coaching, our role play session here, but what are 8 ways to accelerate your sales pipeline? So looking at win rate, looking at average days that your deals are open. According to our friends at Salesforce, there are 8 ways. I think 3 I really want to highlight today. Nurture the leads that are not quite ready. So if you have an open opportunity, if you have someone that you feel would be a good fit for your product or service, they may require some nurturing before you get them into an active open opportunity. So that's really just reading the signals, trying to understand where they are in their buyer's journey, which we will get to in a second. And maybe it takes some nurturing through marketing automation if they're not ready to go yet. In addition to that, having a well-defined sales process. So subjectively, someone can say, go close that deal. Not great coaching method, right? Not a great sales management technique. Objectively, you can say, where is that deal in the pipeline? What step or stage in the process are we? And just really have a great understanding of where they are in the stage progression and how we can get them to advance, which we will get into in a second. And of course, active metrics-driven coaching. So once again, less subjectivity, more objectivity, which leads us into sales process design. So how are we knowing that sales forecasting is a great way to quantify your success and predict your success. Getting into, answering to one of the tips we just talked about as far as nurturing relationships. So oftentimes our sales objectives, we want to acquire new leads, develop relationships, and write contracts, right? And then retain and grow them, don't necessarily align to the buyer's journey. We have to recognize where it aligns to the buyer's journey. So as a buyer, I'm in status quo mode. I may or may not know I have a problem, but once I do have a problem, I'm going to start researching and considering options. I'll commit to something and I'll advocate for that product, right? So that's how sales objectives align to the buyer's journey. From a sales process standpoint, so often the sales process starts so late in the buyer's phase of research and consideration. So a buyer, because they're reading content and because they're online and on LinkedIn and Twitter, and they're observing their network and conversations, and they're reading blogs and listening to podcasts, they may be made aware of a problem that they have, and that something that shakes them out of status quo mode. And that's where the nurturing actually starts. So how can you, as an organization, get into someone's mind prior to you even knowing them, right? So they're unknown to your company, but if you put forward content, right, content-centric go-to-market strategies, put forward great problem-solving content, helping them recognize and have a desire to solve a problem, when they do raise their hand to get into the sales process, we have to recognize that buyer has already progressed through their own journey, and that we have to recognize in the sales process, we have an uphill battle sometimes in re-educating the buyer as to what solutions we can provide to get them to commit. So, that speaks to this notion of having the appropriate infrastructure in place to align with the buyer's journey, and then to create assets to educate, build that trust and credibility, and get them into a sales process. So once they are well educated into a sales process, they close at a higher rate and they close faster. And once again, this solves our problems that we had with Seth and Billy, whose close rates weren't as high. And another thing to look at, and we've mentioned this already, another way to design your sales process to solve for these objective measures of sales forecasting, establishing clear milestones on deal development and progression. So you can see every time you have an open opportunity, you can have, I know some companies that have 7 stages in the sales process. In this case, we have 4 stages in the sales process. We have an opportunity that's qualified, meaning they fit our ideal client profile and they have budget and they accept an offer for a meeting. You get them into pitching mode. So you have an introductory meeting, you agree that it's time to take a deeper dive and maybe provide some strategy. Following that, you have a proposal phase where they agree, they attended the strategy meeting and they've been sent a proposal. And then you get into negotiations, hopefully. And the goal here is to assign stage duration. So if you're looking at the stage duration, or the number of days it takes you to progress a deal through these stages, that speaks to what we were looking at here before as your average sales cycle, right? So your sales cycle is a function, your total sales cycle, average sales cycle is a function of your stage duration. So a great objective way to coach your team is to have stages. Once again, here are 4. I've seen as few as 2 stages. 3 is probably best, upwards of 5 to 7. But just getting into the case where if you have a well-defined sales process, I've qualified them, now I'm going to pitch them, make a proposal, and negotiate in an expectation of days. And then you measure that deal against the averages. And once again, these are very objective ways to coach the team and lead them to success, and really look at stuck deals. So you don't have to hammer them every week on every deal in the pipeline. You just really dig into the deals that are what I would call outliers, or the ones that are exceeding the average stage duration. And those exceptions are the ones that you talk about and focus on, and help the team better understand how to attack and how to go forward and win. So those are just two ways to basically combat this notion of close rate and stage duration. Having an objective sales process and understanding where your buyer is in the journey, and having content to build that education, so there is trust and there is a well-qualified, well-educated prospect coming in who, over time with that strategy, your close rates will go much higher and hopefully your sales will close faster. And all that being said, we are now at the end of the webinar. So thank you for staying on up to this point. I really appreciate it. And the freebie is a free 1-hour coaching session. So for any of you that are interested, just reach out to me through my email, and you've received emails from me here in the past, but a free 1-hour coaching session. And we will bring this model to the coaching session and really talk about objective ways we can set up your pipeline and a process, and just determine what's your path to success. So I make that offer of the free 1-hour coaching session, and at that point we will pause for a minute for any Q&A, and I will kick over to the Q&A section. And I thank you for your time and attention today. It was a lot of fun having this session today. So we will look at we'll pause for a second on I do have I did get a question in advance. So is there, this question comes up all the time. If I open a deal and it stalls out, say we open it in this case, in the qualified phase. I open a deal and they disappear. Should I just delete that opportunity from the pipeline? And I would love to know what you think. And the answer is no. The pipeline is a simple measurement of the truth, right? It's an objective way to measure what's happened. So there are occasions where we have chronic tire kickers who show up every couple months and say, yeah, I think I'd like to talk about doing business with you guys. Well, if they keep showing up month after month and say they get traded around to different reps, if there's no record of them ever kicking the tire, and you see 2 and 3 times which we've opened an opportunity on this tire kicker and then quickly closed it, the 4th and 5th and 6th time they come in kicking tires, you can say, you can really say, look, I'm sorry, but I understand we've been through this conversation before. Are you ready to move today? So that, this notion of really using your pipeline as an accurate way to track exactly what happened, right? Just single version of the truth. This is what happened. It's a great way to do it because it saves you from a lot of aggravation over time. So don't treat your pipeline like a vanity metric, right? Or a way to just only show the good things. We really want to know everything there is about the process. So I see we just got another question come in. Okay, thank you. This is from Scott. Let's see, and I do have to say, Scott Miller is our analytics ninja, a great friend here at Madison, Michigan Market. He is the inspiration for this forecasting calculator, has done a lot of great work. We've worked on a lot of things together because we both enjoy sales analytics, and I aspire to be a sales analytics ninja like him someday. But so Scott says, is the model you shared applicable to one particular industry, or can it be applied and customized or is needed to any industry? It's an awesome question, and this model is pretty universal. It's works especially well in B2B situations, but this is not industry agnostics. Analytics are agnostic to the industry, right? So the numbers are really critical. It's getting down into a process rhythm and reporting and understanding how the business operates and just getting the data you need in place and the insights you need in place to have a successful outing. That's what really drives success. And so this analytical approach is a universal analytical approach. And even if your sales cycle is 2 years long, it's still important to be able to predict success and have the ability to analyze and pull the levers towards making your goal. So thank you for asking that, Scott. That's a great question. Thank you so much. And that being said, as promised, this was a quick and dirty, quick, dirty, and fun webinar that we provided today. So we wanted to keep it within 30 minutes. So I do thank you for your time and attention today. And once again, remember that these small changes in your sales process can make a very big impact on your results. And I encourage you to continue, even if you're watching this offline, please reach out and ask us any questions that you have. So thanks so much for your time today, and I hope you have a great day.